In this video, I will talk about one of the big names in gaming, as well as my first Murakami and one of the best books I've read in a long time. Stay tuned. Hello friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If it's your first time here, my name is Nicholas and my goal for this year was to read 100 books. In this series of videos, I wanted to give a brief summary and overview over each and every one of them, as well as give my own personal opinion and rating in the end. So without further ado, let's continue the series with book number 6. Disrupting the Game by Reggie. Reggie is one of the most well-known faces of the video game industry. He was the CEO of Nintendo of America for 13 years before he retired in 2019. And I, as an avid gamer, get goosebumps just thinking about all the amazing announcements he gave us over the years. Some of his presentations became legendary, like when he showed the world the Nintendo DS for the first time or presented the Nintendo Wii for the first time live on stage. Fans gave him the nickname of the Reginator because of his strong presence on stage and unbreakable spirit. This book then tells his story from the time he grew up in the Bronx in New York City up to the height of his career at Nintendo. It was a short but nevertheless an entertaining read, although for me as a fan, it lacked the juicy insights that I was hoping to get. I'm sure he's still under several NDAs, so I get why he can't just come out with some industry insights the world hasn't heard of before. He tries to throw in some business wisdom, where he wants to give the reader some general people management/leader advice, but these segments feel all very unspecific and generic. I would rate this book 3 stars for gamers and 2 stars for everyone else. As whoever is a fan of Reggie or Nintendo, this can still be a joy to read. Especially the parts where he talks about former Nintendo president Satoru Iwata or legendary game designer Shigeru Miyamoto easily put a smile on my face. Without this emotional connection though, it all falls a bit flat. The Dip by Seth Godin. This is one of the shortest non-fiction books out there. You can easily finish it in one sitting, which is also quite good because as a book it's not that great. It revolves around the idea that whenever you start a new project or a job or an endeavor, you start with the utmost energy and motivation in the beginning. And after a while, after running into some obstacles, you fall into this trap, into this hole, which the author calls the dip, an experience that each and every one of us has made in the past. So far so good, and there's nothing new here, but the author then has this weird idea of which projects are even worth beginning with. He's basically saying, only do the things you're going to be the best in the world at. If you won't be the best in the world at them, quit right now if you've already started, or don't even start if you haven't yet. So basically he tells us that whenever we don't strive to be the best in the world at something, we shouldn't even start. And if that is our goal, then we shouldn't quit because winners don't quit. This is some shitty and in my mind non-applicable life advice, as often when you start new projects or endeavors, you start them out of fun or just an initial spark inside of you. Sure, we all fall into the dip after a while, but to only consider starting the projects I expect to be the best in the world in would take all the fun out of me to begin with. So I rate this book 1.5 stars. If you ask me, there's a much better version of the same concept and what to do when you're falling into the dip, given by author Ira Glass. It's just 2 minutes long and really worth a watch, so I linked it in the description below. The Salt Path by Raynor Winn. This is a very personal story by author Raynor Winn. She and her husband had a seemingly really good life. They were living on a farm somewhere in the British countryside. They had 2 grown-up children and life seemed pretty swell overall. Until within the same week, the author's husband got diagnosed with a terminal illness and they lost their farm due to some legal matters. So, faced with the prospect of homelessness and nothing more to lose, they decide to walk the Southwest Coast Path, England's longest walking trail around the coasts of Dorset and Cornwall. So we follow them around this 630-mile-long path as they tackle their physical and mental limits, as well as the life as homeless people. They're sleeping in a tent by the roadside, in forests, on the beach. They have to think about every penny they spend twice and face a very uncertain future. Walking the path gives them a sense of purpose, belonging and distraction. For us as the reader though, it can get a bit tedious after a while. I have to give this 3 stars as the scenery and happenings were just too samey to really keep up my interest, so especially the latter half of the book becomes a bit of a drag. I think I would have greatly benefited from having some photos alongside the descriptions of this seemingly beautiful scenery. That being said, I had 2 big takeaways from it. First, the book fundamentally changed how I view homelessness going forward, and that's a great takeaway to have. Secondly, I would lie if I didn't think about walking the path myself one day after now having read this book. Desire by Haruki Murakami. Well, this was my first Murakami, and What can I say? I really enjoyed it. Before reading this one, I knew not much about him, other than his name always sounded very sophisticated and educated when you dropped it in a social setting. I chose this one as my first Murakami as a short story collection. It lends itself perfectly to get an idea of the writing style of an author. The 5 short stories in this book are all quite quirky and ever so slightly imaginative in their own way, which is something I've learned is a staple of Murakami. They are all grounded in our real world, but describe sceneries that have almost like a cinematic feeling to them. Like in the first short story, you follow a young couple that wakes up in the middle of the night absolutely starving. And as all the bakeries are closed, they decide to, well, rob a McDonald's. And so all of a sudden, you're almost in this like heist movie, following these 2 normal people robbing a fast food joint just for a quick bite. I mean, that's what I call desire. I give this 4 stars, as overall this was a really entertaining and a short read. I really enjoyed Murakami's wide interpretation of the theme desire, and his characters and plots are all really imaginative. So suffice to say, this definitely was my last Murakami. Born a Crime by Trevor Noah. You've probably heard of the name Trevor Noah before. He's a somewhat well-known American late-night host. But very few people know that he has also written a book which, spoiler alert, is amazing. Before making career in the US, he grew up in South Africa during the final years of apartheid. Even his birth was a crime, hence why the book is called Born a Crime, as he's the son of a Swiss-German white man and a black woman of the Xhosa people. They could have gone up to 5 years in prison just for conceiving him or being seen together with him publicly. For the next few years until apartheid, at least by law, got abolished in 1994, his mother had to do her utmost to hide him from society and never be seen with his father publicly. Trevor Noah talks about these early years growing up between church and school and being hidden away in a witty, sensible and critical way that's so humbling and made me critically reflect on all the privileges that I had growing up. I have to give this book the highest rating of 5 stars. It's an entertaining read as much as it can be given the topic and scenery, and at times a real page-turner as his stories are genuinely gripping and funny. It's honestly the best book I've read in a long while, and I have recommended it to a lot of friends ever since. So these were another 5 out of 100 books for this year. If you enjoyed this content, please leave me a like. And if you fancy buying any of these books now, like Trevor Noah's Born a Crime, check out the links in my description below. These are so-called affiliate links, so I get a small kickback whenever you purchase a book through these links. I thank you so much and see you next time. Ciao.